All right, welcome back to another episode of Enneagram Story Podcast. I am your 5'4", sexy black, most handsome man alive host, Braylon Williams. And I want to say thank you for watching if you're watching the video version of this on YouTube, or thank you for listening if you're listening to this podcast today on your podcast platform. For those of you who might be new to this podcast, this is a podcast where I just talk about the Enneagram alongside some wonderful guests like the one I'll have on today. And I just talk about how the Enneagram isn't used to define us, but rather the best way I say it is it's used for us to make our bad habits good and our good habits better. And it's that line of thinking that moves us forward into this new way of thinking. And like I said, you're in for a treat today because if you can tell by the title of this episode, I have Enneagram Coach and Pastor Tyler Zach on to talk with me. But before I tell you about what exactly we will be talking about today, just a little bit about what's happened recently in my life. At the time that I'm recording this, which is in May, but this doesn't come out until I think August is when this one is set to release. But at the time of this recording, the school year is rounding out, and so we're seeing a lot of hecticness, but also a lot of calmness happen in students. You can tell it is the end of the school year. As a substitute teacher, myself, it's one of those things where it's a fun time, but also it's like, do I have to deal with this chaos type of thing? So it's a battle. It's like, do I go to work today? Do not go to work? It's one of those things like you want to go to work, but at the same time you don't want to go to work because you're like, you know what possibly could happen because students are feeling the end of the year is testing is happening and everything, but it's a wonderful time. But aside from that, just personally, there's a lot of things that that is happening. I started a few new email campaigns. So if you're not on my email list, go to my Instagram bio, and there is a link in there for you to join that way. But I started this new thing in my for my newsletter where it's a very personal outlook on what is happening in my life in that moment. So one of the things I'm talking about is aspirations. Another thing is intentional solitude and how that is combative with loneliness. And so it's just I started that to be more personal because my entire goal for this year is being more personal with people and not being so like one way closed off type of thing. So a lot of things happening and like I said, this episode will air in like August, but at this time just a few days before the the opening and registration period for the Enne Collective, which is the Enneagram and Emotions Collective. And so you'll hear a lot about that. Or you should have heard a lot about that already, like I said, because this episode is pre-recorded. But and it's one of the furthest ones in the list. But anyway, like I said, I have a special guest on today for today's episode. It is, and who that person is Tyler Zach. I'm glad that he is able to join me today. Now, let me tell you a little bit about who he is for those who might not know who Tyler Zach is. All right, so Tyler Zach is an Enneagram coach and a pastor, and he has been someone that I have followed in the Enneagram world from day one of me being involved in the Enneagram. He has hosted multiple online summits about the Enneagram. His most recent one was called the Enneagram Summit, Love and Relationships. And most of, if not all of these summits that he has hosted, I've attended, and they all have been amazing and very, very beneficial to me. But aside from that, he also has this course called The Real History of the Enneagram, in which he debunks a lot of the myths surrounding the origins of the Enneagram. So I've yet to finish the course, and I've yet to finish all the sessions from this previous summit, but I have the all access pass to that summit, so I am lucky to be able to still go back and watch those. But I will say the course of how much I've watched so far has been phenomenal. There is a link in the show notes for you to catch that and for you to check that out if that interests you, what that is about, and if you're like, hey, I want to learn more about the history about the Enneagram. There is a direct link in the show notes. Just scroll down there and see that. And today we're going to talk about active waiting. You know, this has been the theme of the entire season thus far. Well, it's not thus far. The entire season theme is active waiting. Tyler's going to talk about his personal experience of actively waiting as a 3. But then also he's going to help us understand the invitation to just be for all 9 types and what it might look like, how it might manifest itself in our lives, whether you're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9. So, but before we do that, let me just give you a little bit more about Tyler's personal history, because I gave you his kind of professional history, but let me give you some about his personal history. Like I said, he is a certified Enneagram coach with 18 years of experience coaching college students, adults, married couples, and teams. He's also the co-founding pastor of One Hope Church, and he is a self-published author with 6 books that have sold over 7,500 copies on Amazon. And he lives in Omaha, Nebraska with his wife and 2 sons. And Tyler's passion and mission is to help you let go of the things that are keeping you stuck in your personal and professional life. All right, I think I said enough. Let's jump right into the conversation and see what Tyler has to say, all right? But I came here to go to Evangel University, and so that's how I ended up here, and just have kind of stuck around.
Okay. Evangel?
So, yep. It's a Assembly of God school.
Okay.
So pretty small. But yeah.
Cool. I think I took somebody from Evangel to China with me back when I went on a mission trip to China. I think there was a girl from, I think it was Evangel, that came up and came with us. So yeah, I've heard of it.
Might have been. You never know. It's a small world. So
Yeah. Okay. Well, how long have you been studying the Enneagram?
I have been doing the Enneagram, 2019. I found out about it when I came to college in 2018, but the way people talked about it was not my thing. I was like, this doesn't feel right. This feels like too cliche type of thing. So but then I'm like, I actually start looking to myself, and now I'm doing this, an avid person of the Enneagram, and a lot of my people are like, can you stop talking about the Enneagram? I'm like, no, I can't. So I haven't been as bad lately, but past years, I would always find that little nudge in the conversation, be like, well, the Enneagram says this, and it's probably why you're doing this, and here's how you can help yourself out. But so
yeah.
But,
Yeah, that's cool, man. Is your school is Evangel pretty pro Enneagram, or kind of mixed?
I would say it's a little bit of mixed, honestly. I think the biggest issue, and this is kind of like I was kind of thrown off against it. I don't, in my view of everything, it doesn't seem like they know it as of its benefits, just more the typing part of it. And it's like there's so much beyond the understanding your personality of what it says type of thing. It's just they're right there on the top of the surface, but not going deeper to utilize it type of thing.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. Oh, I totally get that.
But it's one of those things, and it's honestly kind of why I started this podcast. Because the whole, I don't know if you've seen this anywhere. I don't know if I even told you this yet, but the entire every episode I end up saying the Enneagram doesn't define you, but it does bring restoration. It helps reshape your thinking and habits, and that's my entire thing. Like, because people think
Yeah.
it's something to box you in. No, 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 no. This is more like a card helping you get to the next destination. So,
Yep. Yep.
but
Have you um have you encountered any obstacles or frustrations with like talking about the Enneagram in like white spaces or with white people? I'm just curious.
I I haven't. I would say the biggest like complication that I have is mainly with males. They females are. It's like, oh yeah, I know about the Enneagram. Let's talk about our type and everything. But then
Hmm.
males are like, nah, that's invalid. I don't care about that type of thing. And so I find that very interesting. Like, yeah, so of course I'm a little bit tainted because I am a male and then you're a male, and I know so many other male
Yeah,
people in the Enneagram world. So it's like it's kind of weird to see that imbalance there from avid male Enneagrammers, but then everyday people who are like, yeah, no, let's not talk about that. So
gotcha. Well, I was mainly thinking about if you've been around a while, like a lot of the Enneagram schools are kind of taught and led and were started by white people.
yeah,
Um, I don't know, it can be kind of challenging. Um, we can almost, just like we can whitewash theology, we can whitewash the Enneagram and not contextualize it. Um, we can be a fish swimming in water, teaching the Enneagram in a specific way, and not even realize it. And so I just know some of those. There's been some frustration or just some challenges, like with my friend Milton Stewart and some others. So I was just curious to
yeah.
see if you've run into any of that, or yeah. But I was just
I
curious.
I was because when I started like in the Enneagram, I'm like this I actually thought it's just like pretty much just white people. And I've got to be like the only black person involved in this. So
Yeah.
every time I see another black person like about the Enneagram, I'm like, yes, there's another one of us. So, uh, but I
uh,
can see the challenge though because the black community is just so traditional based, and the Enneagram is very not tradition. So it's that thing.
well, I've talking to some of my friends of color. They, even in the type descriptions, they might be describing a type, and it might not represent like people of color. It might be
Yeah,
the type description might be more geared towards a white person, for example. That can be one obstacle that you run into. So um, yeah, just curious. Do you know Milton Stewart, by the way?
the it sounds familiar, but I can't say that I do.
Okay. If I send my bio stuff to you after this, like I can send you his link and stuff.
Okay.
He's like big time. He's like on the IEA, so the International Enneagram Association, and he's doing some awesome things. So
All right.
to let you know who he is.
Yeah. I wish I have notes up, but they're in Microsoft Word, and apparently on iPad, your pencil doesn't like to work with that, so I can never write notes down. But
Well, I'm a three, so I have 3 pages of notes
uh,
for you. So I'm not gonna fail you, Braylon, as a
oh,
fellow three.
I doubted you would. So, but
Yeah, yeah. The only thing I don't have a good handle on is type nines.
yeah,
So I have a little bit more on threes and some personal stuff, which threes aren't usually good at. But talked about some personal stuff. Um, and then I went through each type and just wrote a few sentences for each type, and then I can say it, and then you can jump in, and we can go back and forth,
yeah,
and just get your input or thoughts on what I wrote
yeah,
down.
yeah.
Nines, I
I like that.
have a little bit of trouble with nines though, because they typically wait. They typically wait too long and are always waiting and not doing. So when you
Yeah,
said a waiting season, I'm like, how do nines wait in a waiting season when they typically wait for other things for other people to step in. So I tried to phone a friend, and I'm still waiting to see if they, or I texted two of my friends to see if they can provide any insight on that. But
Oh, I understand because I'm like in the same boat, and like I'm I'm grappling with not only just the nines because they, like you said, they are like just there, but like all of the types because like this is a different conversation. Honestly, it's
yeah.
like whoever thinks
Hmm.
about waiting. No, nobody likes to wait. I don't like to wait. I'm like, why am I
Yeah.
even talking about this? But
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
it all stems from kind of just where I am in life. I was, I wouldn't say fortunate, but also unfortunate to be where I am right now, not really knowing, not having a stable or solid plan in life, really, and just kind of
Hmm.
living every day by day. And so
Hmm.
it just kind of stems from personal experience. I'm like, all right, this seems like something I'm dealing with, but I also had a couple friends who are like, yeah, they just feel like there nothing new is happening, but nothing bad as well as happening. It's just like just kind of stuck in what I would say is that steadiness of a river flowing type of thing. Like there's
Hmm.
no current. It's just you're just floating along on the lazy river. So
Yep.
I thought it might be good to look into.
Totally. Totally. Well, I have. So if you want to kind of,
I,
if you want to kind of start off, like, I can, if you just want to ask me what you wrote down, like, how do you deal with waiting seasons?
yeah,
I can go on for a little bit, and then yeah, just have no bullet points for each type that, and we can do those whenever you want to, whenever it feels natural during the episode. So
yeah. So I'll just start off and we can do like a little bit more of a formal. We've been talking, but we can do a little bit more of
yeah,
a formal introduction type of thing.
sure.
Also because I want to give thanks and praise to you because of your summits. I love them,
Awesome.
especially they're two of my favorite ones have been actually this past one, which I'm still going through all the episodes. I haven't watched all the sessions from the recent one,
Mm.
but I'm also a substitute teacher, as your wife is, and so because I heard so much about how you shouldn't use the Enneagram to type kids, I've been kind of I've like pushed that idea away.
Hmm.
But when Beth was talking about the 9 types of conflict in children, I'm like,
Yeah.
that changes my idea on how I substitute teach completely, how I
Totally.
handle my kids. And it's like, now I'm
Hmm.
like, somebody comes up to me with a problem, like, I think you're this, and I want to hand you with these type of gloves. And so I'm like, I should have been doing this a long time ago because honestly, it has made my job easier looking at it from that lens.
That's good,
So,
Braylon. Yeah.
but, and then the other one was in the spring of, I wrote it down. Let me make sure I get it right. Yeah, spring of 2023, when
Hmm.
you talked with Lisa Vischer
Oh yeah.
in there, and she said a quote: "If I don't know who I am, I can't form a bond, and if I can't form a bond, I can't know that I'm loved." And from that moment, that quote has been on repeat in my head almost every second of my life,
Mm.
and that was
Jeez.
like 2 years ago now. And so I'm like,
Wow.
it was just so. I,
That's crazy.
I don't remember anything else she talked about, but that quote right there has stuck with me. I've
Yeah.
never forgot it.
Oh,
So
I'm gonna definitely tell her that, because I connect with her
yeah,
somewhat regularly. So I'm gonna encourage her with that.
yeah. I tried to get her on the podcast too, but I haven't heard back from her yet. So I'm gonna have to email her again.
Yeah,
So
well, she's extremely busy, and
yeah.
she's actually in the hospital this month.
Oh
She's a medical thing going on, so they're doing X-rays and kind of figuring what's going on. So she's out of commission this month. So just to
no.
let you know that.
Yeah. I didn't know that. I did see though where her son got married. So I'll
Hmm.
I'll keep her in mind because I didn't know that. So. Um,
Hmm.
But I kind of jumped around here, so I'm trying to get back on my actual notes. I got a little bit excited because I just had to give you thanks for hosting those,
Yeah, awesome,
honestly.
man. That's awesome.
So, um, talk a little bit about because I know you're a 3. Um, but I kind of want to dig into a little bit about what your wing is and your subtype, and then also like I know some people don't think that subtypes stack, but are you one of those people? I am who think that you have like an order of your subtypes.
Yeah. Are you just going to be editing all this right now, or is there do you have like are you going to like do an intro and like launch into the episode? I'm just
Oh,
uh,
this is kind of it. I just pretty much it's raw and it goes
slice and
out.
slice
Yeah,
and dice.
yeah.
Okay.
I like the
Uh,
raw conversations. So the mess ups and everything, it gets put out there.
that's awesome. So I have a really heavy forewing, a very introspective feeler wing, and I've heard that your type tends to, if you're introverted, you tend to be drawn to the introverted number on
Yeah,
whatever side it is. So extroverts might be more three wing twos, introverts might be three wing fours. Uh, so I don't know exactly, but I do identify a lot with the type four in terms of I love pulling back and achieving from more behind the scenes and writing and doing very introspective work more so than actually coaching and doing one-on-one uh, sessions with people.
yeah.
I just love the creative process of writing and find a lot of joy in that. I'm a self-preservation three, so
Okay,
it took me a little bit to find that out because I didn't really resonate with some of the descriptions of the instincts at first. I thought I was a sexual or one-to-one instinct, but primarily because that really showed up in my dating.
oh,
When I was dating girls, that would rise to the surface, and I'd be like, I want to be everything to you, and I want you to be everything to me, and I want us to be the only couple in the world, and that kind of thing. But from what I've learned, that sexual instinct rises or floods you, uh, all types. Um, when you're dating and starting new
yeah,
friendships, it kind of rises to the surface, but then it kind of goes back, subsides after a while, and you go back to your dominant instinct. And so, yeah, I'm very much self-preservation. So I like to kind of pull back, and I think a lot about my energy. So I look very five-ish. I actually scored as a five or tied as a five when I first took the Rizzo and Hudson test. So it
okay,
can look very five-ish because I can tend to pull away quite a bit to conserve my energy. But that can make me very, very, very productive too. So one thing I learned from Lisa, who we are talking about earlier, is that she commented that self-preservation threes tend to be the most productive out of all the subtypes of the threes because we can pull back and we can be with machine-like efficiency can pound stuff out, and that's kind of my superpower. But it can get me into trouble when my self-preservation makes me too selfish and I'm not
yeah,
able to spend time with family, prioritize family. I mean, all threes have a hard time with that if they're into their career and their work, but especially self-pres threes that are introverted can have a really hard time creating space, making their loved ones a priority. So yeah, self-pres three with four wing.
all right. I like that. I uh, am so much social subtype, and it's to my detriment a lot of times. So, but it's a fun time. Even when I thought that I was an eight, I'm like, yeah, I'm definitely a social person because I like to just be out there, and I'm like in the room, like, all right, let's go and get with this crowd and just have fun. Um, I literally have this character that I call Black Country Santa that I kind of came up with just because people like the idea of seeing me in this crazy costume every Christmas, and so it became a new thing. So, but anyway, I go off rabbit trails a lot, so if I ever do, just pull me back. So, but we can start moving to talk a little bit more about the actual topic, which is active waiting. And so, how would you define active waiting for yourself or anybody else who might ask you what it is?
Active waiting. Well, I like the word that you used before it, active waiting. Just the fact that the act of waiting itself is obedience. It is, if you're a person of faith, if it is doing something, like waiting is doing something. And it's
Yeah.
really, really hard to do that because you have to let go of something. You have to surrender something in order to achieve that. We're going to get into the types, and I'll talk specifically about type threes a little more because we're threes. But most people want to seize control, want to do something in the midst of waiting, and waiting is a resignation of I can't do anything about this. Uh, I need to. Active waiting is it's not passive, but it's an act of obedience or an act of faith
Yeah.
to hang on without trying to do something, without trying to react negatively, without blaming, without uh, getting caught up in anxiety and slipping into analysis paralysis. I don't have a good definition, but I would say that waiting is an active thing and not a passive thing. If that makes sense.
I like that. Um, it's definitely not easy, but just to say that you have to be um, honestly kind of actually physically active to actually be productive. And I like you say it's not a definition, but I think it's definition. So I'm gonna give you props for that because I like it. It's way more simple than I would have defined it. So I'm gonna steal that. So all right, and as a three, how have you? Well, let me back up a little bit. How have waiting seasons played out in your life, and how have you handled them?
Yeah, well, I'll never forget when a lead pastor once told me to keep a journal and come back to it every 6 weeks or so. And one of the questions that he said to journal was, "What do you need to wait for?" And I was
Mm,
really struck by the question because it was a question I never asked myself. Like waiting, even asking the question, like I said, is humbling because it's admitting that some things are beyond our control to
yeah,
achieve. Like as a three, like it's even asking the question is takes humility because it's like there's something I can't do in life, and that's really hard. And so one of the things I've written in my journal now for over a decade is, waiting on children, like biological
mm,
children. So my wife and I adopted two beautiful boys, two biracial boys. One is on the spectrum, so that's a big part of our story of talking about autism. And so we have a beautiful family right now, but still to this day haven't been able to have children naturally. And so as a three, it's hard because there's like nothing more I can do
yeah,
to make this a reality. And so I'm literally waiting on forces that are beyond my control. And it's a sobering reality to think that there's some things in life that can't be achieved by trying or working harder. Like the only thing we talked about, the only thing that you can do is surrender and depend on God or someone else or some outside force to show up in your life. Like you literally waiting on somebody else, and that's really really hard.
yeah. Um, I was. I don't know if you know of Jean Stevens. She's a pastor from Chicago, but she has a book called "What's Here Now," and in it she kind of talks about that how waiting is a process of surrendering. And I told her like, yeah, no, I don't like that surrendering part. It just I feel like I can make things happen. It's that idea within me, that threeness. That's like I have the resources, I have the power. Why not try and make it happen? So, but it's definitely hard to surrender.
Yeah, and another reason why waiting is hard for me is because three's abilities often exceed their character.
Mm,
Right? So a three's natural abilities often exceed their character. So we can lead teams, Braylon. We can write books. We can start a business in our 20s or 30s whenever we want. Uh, there are other Enneagram types, like ones, for example, that understand doing things with integrity and doing things with a slow process. They're ones are willing to go slow to make sure it's done right and done good, to make sure it's perfect. But threes, on the other hand, we like to take shortcuts when we're healthy. because we like efficiency, we like doing things fast, and we just feel more valuable if we can build and produce something now, today, but forget that to build fast without laying a foundation, like it may all crumble tomorrow. And I'm
Yeah.
not just talking about laying a foundation with blueprints and quality plans. I'm talking about laying a foundation for our character. Like, I mean, I would I want my 13-year-old to become mayor of Omaha tomorrow? Like, absolutely not. He's got some growth that needs to happen. But Braylon, if you were to ask me, Tyler, do you think you could run for mayor tomorrow? I'd be like, I'd really have to think about it. I'd be like, I mean, I think I could. If I think I could be strategic and I could cast vision and I start thinking, man, I can do this. And that's what threes do. And we forget that, like our kids, like that we need to grow and we need to mature before we go and accomplish any of our dreams. I mean, speaking from a person, a leader of faith, like, Moses was said to be the most humble person on the face of the earth. But he didn't lead the Israelites out of Egypt in his 20s. Like, he had to wait 40 years before he accomplished what he did. And he waited 40 years before someone wrote that he was the most humble man on the face of the planet. So, like, kind of the big idea that about waiting for me as a three, why it's so hard is because it makes me face the fact that my character like might not have caught up with my gifts yet. And if I write that book that I really want to write, and I think that all the time, like, oh, I could write a book on that. Oh, I could write a book on that. I could do that. uh, it the thing is, it's not going to go well. Like, and I'll look like even more of a failure when my immaturities come out or my lack of life experience goes public. Like, if I take those shortcuts as a three, I need to remind myself that it's gonna go worse. So I need to be patient, wait, and view the process of achieving more like a plant, a small plant that takes time to grow and grow and grow and grows a centimeter a day and develops over time. Sometimes it takes years or decades before we should go and accomplish our dream because we need to allow our character to catch up. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, that makes complete sense. And honestly, I'm like, I hate that it makes sense because it's so true to me. I'm like, I, I know that's I need to take it in, but I'm also like, yeah, I'm gonna push that to the trash can. It's a good word, but I'm like, I don't want to accept it as a word for me, even though it's true for me. So it's one of
Well,
those
I'm
things.
40 now, and I have enough scars in life to be able to say that and just to say, hey, this is accurate. This is what threes
Yeah,
need to receive. Is Suzanne Stabile, Enneagram teacher, always tells twos, you have to ask yourself, what's yours to do, or
yeah,
what's yours? Who is your person to help? Because it's not everybody. you gotta
right.
gotta ask yourself, who do you need to help and who do you not need to help? Like, put boundaries around your helping. Threes can put boundaries around their achieving, of asking, okay, what is mine to do? What is mine to achieve? Because I don't need to go out and do all the things in my head that I think would be really cool to do and accomplish. Because maybe Braylon, maybe your assignment is to do something that I want to do, but maybe you could do it better because you're in a better situation, or maybe you're further along the path, or you're more mature than me in some areas. Like, it maybe a book idea that I have would be better written by you. So I need to, and that takes humility from a three to say there are a lot of things that I shouldn't do because I can do all things, but I shouldn't do all things because of context, because of my gifts, because of my situation, because of my where I'm at in my growth, my character. So I need to put boundaries around my achieving, or wait for to do X and for 5 more years and Y for 10 more years. Or, my one of my favorite pastors, Tim Keller, said that he never wrote a book until he turned 40 because he knew that any book that he wrote before 40 was going to be bad. And I was like, man, the patience that it takes
A
to
lot.
to wait till you're 40 to do something that you really want to do, that takes self-discipline and humility for sure. And that's always stuck with me.
Hey everybody, I just want to take a quick break from the show to say that I love having conversations with all of my listeners. And one of the ways that I do this is by engaging through social media. And you can follow the podcast, that Enneagram Star podcast on both Instagram and Facebook. I look forward to engaging with you all more on those platforms. I never thought of it in that way, but when you said what is mine to achieve, I'm like that's fire right there. And that's it's going to be stuck in my head. And after we finish, I'm gonna go write it down. But like, what is mine to achieve? Because even if I am good at distinguishing what is mine to achieve, I'll say to myself, I think this might be good to put out in the world. So I might try to encourage somebody else to do it. Oftentimes I have the thought, I can start this and hand it off to somebody and they make it better, type of thing. But it's like, even that, what's mine to achieve? It's like, maybe I don't need to start it. Maybe I just need to wait for somebody else to get the same idea and do it. But again, it's a knife in my heart, but it's so true. So just
Well, we can talk about other types too.
Oh yeah, we're gonna get there. I was about to say we can move on. I don't really have any particular order. If you just want to start at whatever you want to start, you can go from 1 to all the way through 9, or however you want to do it. I don't have it any order.
Sure. Sure. So I just wrote down some raw thoughts on each type. I'm writing a book series. It's a faith-based devotional series for any faith-based people listening. But I'm writing the Type 5 book right now, and it's almost finished. And so by the end of by July, the whole 9-book series will be done. And so I'm just kind of pulling. These are raw thoughts, but I'm pulling from 6 months of kind of a deep dive into each type here as I say these things. So it's my best attempt at thinking about each type and their waiting pattern. So for Type 1s, I think Type 1s have trouble with waiting for the world to change. I think of the song "Waiting on the World to Change."
I thought the same thing as you said that.
The reason why we know Enneagram 1 struggle to wait is because we know that they are bad at waiting because their frustration comes out in critical remarks and a resentful attitude when their ideal world isn't here yet. And so that might be unconscious in them. Like their perfect ideal world, when it's not here yet, they get frustrated that everyone is going slow, that people are making mistakes, that people are dropping the ball. So then it comes out in frustration or resentment or anger towards other people. So they have to, in the waiting process, they have to value progress over perfection. They have to realize, okay, the ideal world is coming. It's happening. It's slow, but we're heading there. We're getting better. And so I need to realize that today is better than yesterday, that there's progress that's been made. And I'm going to celebrate progress in the world, and I'm going to celebrate progress in myself. Like I'm frustrated. Ones get frustrated when they're imperfect and when they're not their ideal self yet. So they need to give themselves self-compassion to realize I'm better than I was yesterday because I can see progress and I can see progress in the world. And so that will give me peace as I wait. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I like it. Because like you said, their ideal world is built on how perfect everything could be. And so just to slow down and say imperfectness is okay is a good thing.
Yeah. Type 2s?
Yeah, go ahead.
So Type 2s have trouble with waiting on people to reciprocate their help and appreciation. So they may have to be in relationships with others right now who are immature, who are still growing. Maybe it's their kids and they're not getting anything in return. Like they're in relationships that they really value, but they're waiting for help to come. They're waiting for appreciation to come because they're doing so much for them, but it's not coming. So they keep waiting, and then they get more resentful, feel rejected, and then I say they'll Hulk out.
Oh,
So
yeah.
they have to value themselves, and they have to befriend themselves, right? To see themselves as lovable and beautiful and wanted. Like they just have to be a friend of themselves and value themselves while they wait on others to give them the appreciation and approval and thanks and the help that they're longing for.
Yeah. And this is kind of off a little bit off topic, but I figured I might just ask it because it just feels right to ask this question. Would you say that type twos, like majority of their top love language is acts of service?
Uh, I think two's kind of a monopoly on all the love languages. They do all of them well because
Yeah.
they're generous by nature. They're just generosity is their gift, so they can be generous with words of affirmation. They can be generous with a gift. They love quality time, so they'll gift you their quality time. So it's hard. It's hard because you can see a lot of the love languages coming out in it. Two acts of service. Uh, so yeah, you can't really say that the twos have one more than the others. It's you see them being generous with all of them. If that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. And the reason why that thought came up to me is like, so if that's their love language, then maybe it kind of hurts them as they wait to for people to reciprocate their acts and everything, and that like imbalance there as well. So I just thought that might be a little connection there,
Yeah. No,
somewhat.
it's a good connection, and it's you can ask it to what are you angry about not getting? Are you angry that they didn't make you a casserole when you were sick because you made a casserole, did an act of service when they were sick? Is it because you keep telling them you love them and writing long text messages to them, but they're not reciprocating with long text messages back to you? So it can take very different forms.
Yeah, yeah, I like that. Well, we talked a lot about threes already, but is there anything else that you have to add to threes themselves?
Yeah, just to put it succinctly, because I shared a little bit of my story, threes have a can-do attitude. That children's story. I think I can. I think I can.
Yes.
I put that in my book. Like we think we can, and so we tell ourselves that we can do anything we put our minds to, which is why we said that you need to ask yourself, what is mine to achieve. But um, we have trouble waiting because we think to ourselves, why do I need to wait when I can just go out and accomplish it now? And,
Yeah.
and the same is true with conflict. If we have conflict with someone, we approach it very logically and say, what do we need to do to solve this? So even in conflict, we think that we can do something to get rid of the conflict. And so sometimes when you're waiting in marriage or in a long term relationship, there's nothing you can do other than listen, other than let the feelings come and go. Listen to your loved one's feelings more. Take more of a passive approach in terms of listening, validating, creating space for them to share their concerns and fears. Uh, that's that's what you can do. It's not
Yeah.
you trying to fix them or trying to fix the situation with flowers or anything like that. If that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny that you say the little engine that could, because that's often one thing that I recite a lot of the times to students when they ask me for help. So I'm like, you can do this. I think you can type of thing. Mainly because I'm projecting my own characteristics onto them, which is easy to do as a teacher. But as far as going out and fixing conflict, you said that, and it made me think back to, I want to say it was 2 Christmases ago now. We were visiting family in Texas, and there was this argument that broke out. I saw it coming from a mile away, even though the thing that was the catalyst for that argument was a very trivial thing, and it wasn't supposed to be taken as an argument starter thing. It was kind of like a sarcastic joke type of thing. But I saw it coming a mile away. I'm like, I think I thought to myself, I could step in and stop this entire thing from happening, but I just let it happen. I'm like, I think it might be beneficial for this core group of family members to have this And it was because it led, even though the argument was very heated and honestly almost made me cry. And I never cry. But the aftermath, the discussion that we had was just so heartfelt, and like there was just wounds that no one ever thought of to discuss. And I'm like, I think I made the right choice there. I could have fixed it, but I didn't. And so it actually ended up being fixed way better than I could imagine. And so you said that, and that just reminded me of that. I'm like, that's what happened there in that situation. So
That's good. That's really good.
but
One more thing I'll say about threes that applies to sevens and eights as well, because we're all future oriented, three, sevens,
yeah,
and eights, and we want to get to the future for us threes because we want to get that next promotion, we want to do the next project, accomplish that next dream, because we've attached our identity to it. We attach identity to what we do. So if we can't do it today, then I don't feel like a somebody today. I might
yeah,
have achieved something yesterday, like maybe won a medal or an award or was in the newspaper, but that I've already forgotten about that achievement, and I feel empty again. So I need to go out and achieve something again. Madonna said this, the singer. She said, even if I produced a world class album yesterday, I got to go back out and reprove myself today that I'm a somebody.
yeah,
And she's probably a three. And so because we attach our identity to what we do, that makes us itch to like get to the future,
yeah,
rather
so
than
much.
wait in the present. So that can be really, really hard to wait in the presence because we might feel like we're a nobody, and it's hard to stay in that frame. That just that. What am I trying to say? In that mindset.
Yeah, and so true. Because like right now, like I said, I'm enduring a very heavy waiting season, and that has been the sentiment. I'm not achieving anything, so I feel useless. Honestly, feel like why am why am I even alive? Type of ideology. Not that sounds bad. That kind of sounds suicidal, but it's not. It's just that more on the depression side, not the actual suicidal side. Just want to clarify that because that I don't want people calling in and saying, "Are you okay?"
Yeah. I
but
gotcha.
but yeah, it's that thing. So anyway, if I'm ready to move on, if you are
Or
to
yeah.
fours,
So type fours have trouble with waiting, with being stuck in a mundane or ordinary situation. So being an idealist, they're idealists with ones and sevens. They're all idealists, and so they want to do something that matches their ideals in their head. So they want to do something special, unique, full of meaning, and so they might be an artist, a type four art. Not all fours are artists, but some are. They might be an artist who wants to open an art studio, but they're stuck working at a bank of 40 hours a week or
yeah,
50 hours a week. So that may be really hard for them to wait because they feel ordinary, they feel mundane, they feel like the work is just so boring. And so that might be really, really hard for them. And what they need to do in that situation is not quit. I know a lot of fours who will just quit. So they need to refuse to quit and try their best to find beauty in the ordinary, beauty in the mundane, and to wait for opportunities to come to showcase their beauty and meaning to the world. To know that they will have opportunities, but maybe in a situation that again it might be character forming for them, to wait in a situation that might not be very fun for them to wait in.
yeah. I I always think about whenever I think about a four, I always think about my favorite children's book. It's called The Last of the Really Great Wayne Doodles, and it's written by Julie. Is it Julia Andrews or Julie Andrews? I can't remember her actual first name. Is Julie or Julia? I forget. But it's so it's kind of like a mystical version of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory type of thing, and it's like that's gotta be forethinking. It's gotta be all these beautiful things that seem odd to the everyday humans, like of this, and to just be able to step into that world whenever, but then to think they have this power to step into this world, but yet life is forcing them outside of this world, and how
Mm-hmm.
that feels to them. have to wait on their magic to happen. That's got to feel honestly life threatening to them.
Yeah. So fours will and fives will live inside their head, and fours will live inside their imaginations and ideal visions for the world, with living with ideal relationships, and then it'll pull them away from having real conversations or ordinary conversations or connections with people, and so make them feel more isolated. If they get impatient with waiting, and then they move to daydreaming to compensate, uh, and then it'll just make them even feel more disconnected from the world. So they need to make sure that they stay grounded, connecting with other people, and um, have an outlet for talking about their frustrations, and whether that's a therapist or a friend, like to stay connected to people.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. Fives, they, like you said,
Yeah.
are introspective.
Yep. So fives have trouble on waiting in terms of, like, they want to understand the world today. They want to understand how everything works today. If they put their mind to something, they want to figure out the problem. They want to solve the puzzle. They just want answers. They want to solve problems. And so they isolate themselves and go down these rabbit trails to solve problems and find answers and to do more research and to spend all day on Google searching, or in YouTube searching for how-to videos. So that's kind of how they deal with their waiting, is that they activate their mind even more, and then it goes a million miles an hour, and then they get really anxious, and then they start to literally lose their mind
Yeah,
when they're waiting. So when they're waiting, and you'll see this other pattern with five, sixes, and sevens, that when they're waiting, like for two, threes, and fours in the heart triad, when we're waiting, we're dealing with issues of identity and shame.
yeah,
Those are the things that creep up when five, sixes, and sevens start waiting. Then their mind gets activated and restless. And so for fives, yeah, their mind just goes and they just keep searching and researching and analyzing until they literally lose their mind. And so they're gonna have to be okay with mystery. They're gonna have to be okay with the fact, while they're waiting, that there's just some things that they're not ever gonna have answers for. There's going to be solutions that feel very illogical to them. And so they're going to have to surrender their mind, surrender their logic and their reasoning, and sort of, like you said before, jump into the river of life and surrender control of having to have it all figured out, and to let God or the universe or whatever your worldview is, to let that guide you and take you through the mystery. That makes sense.
yeah. I'm trying to. Something has come to mind. I'm trying to figure out the best way to word it. It's in the Christian universe. We often say that the beauty of God is revealed within the mystery of Himself as well. Like noticing the mystery of the world is also something that makes us stand in awe. And it's that type of idea. If you can kind of see where I'm going, it's a very fragmented thought, but it's like honestly for fives asking themselves, what beauty is the world trying to show me through mystery type of thing. So kind of how Susanna says, "What's mine to do," and how you just said it earlier about threes, "What's mine to achieve." It's like for fives, what's mine to be mysterious about type of thing. To kind of
Or you could say, what's mine to know, or what's mine to
yeah,
understand.
yeah, I
And
like that better.
you know,
Put it
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you took that fragmented sentence and you just made it way better. I'm like, this I never thought about this, so I'm literally like coming up with this on the thought, and it is a very fragmented thing. I hope he is catching what I'm putting down, and you did. So thank you for that, because
uh
I'm like, I don't know if I'm putting this out there right.
no, you got it, man. That you get
So,
credit for that.
so
Should we go to sixes?
yeah,
Okay, so type sixes, they want reassurance that everything's going to be okay. They want stability. They want predictability. Fives want predictability as well. They on that end of the spectrum. And sixes will have trouble with waiting for safety to come, to know 100%, with certainty that they're safe and secure. They want certainty that safety and security is going to happen and that everything's going to be okay. And again, so if while they're waiting, they will get really anxious and their mind will start going a million miles an hour like fives. Although it's not trying to know things and understand things, it's more like it's a vigilance.
Yeah.
It's thinking about all the worst case scenarios so they can protect themselves from those scenarios, and that's where they go in the waiting. And so uh, rather than surrendering to the fact that we're safer than we think, that we're going to be okay, and just sort of sitting in that sort of passive posture of like with open hands, like letting the world go, they want to clench their fists and protect themselves and protect their loved ones and figure out all the problems that could happen and write down solutions for them. And so there's they're doing something to try to solve their anxiety. They're actively problem solving in order to get the anxiety and the fears off of them while they're waiting. But that's just not going to solve the problem. They're going to have to surrender all of their worst case thinking, and while they're waiting, start thinking about best case scenarios. Like as they're
Yeah.
waiting, thinking about, okay, what are all the best things that could happen to me into tomorrow or in the future? Uh, maybe like for me and my wife, maybe we will have children. Maybe like start thinking positively and letting that sort of peace fall on them so that they can live with peace rather than living in fear or anxiety.
Yeah.
So that's what I got for sixes.
I I always when I think about sixes, and it really comes in most of the time. I don't know if you ever watched the show 911 with Angela Bassett in it. It's on ABC now, but I always think when I see those scenarios play out, I'm like, how would a six handle this moment? Because sixes are like this, planning out every possible scenario. It's like, what would they have thought different about this? Like, how would they handle this response, or how they would like handle calling 911, what they would have said on the phone to 911. But I say all this and kind of round back to it, and to say that, one, I think the person who come up with all the emergency response plans for the United States was probably a six, because like you see some of those things and it's like, there's no ways a two could have thought about that, because they're trying to get love through other ways, or like a three, because they're just trying to do things to get applause and everything. And so it's really like this very didactic planning method. But for a six to, what I find interesting when I think about that is that there's a moment where, even if it's a six on the response team, and of course this is all dramatized things, so they're thought out and written, but if there's a six on a firefighter or police team, or even a six who is a victim, there's a moment where they have to be like, there's nothing more that I personally can do. Either they've got to rely on their team, or they've got to, like you said, surrender and be like, oh, this paramedic has got my life in their hands, and I'm just going to lay here and hope for the best type of thing. Um, Man, again, surrendering is the key word for pretty much everything, and it's not an easy thing to do for
Yep,
any type, really.
that's good.
So,
That's really good. I like that. Yeah, the 911 EMT uh, and the illustration. That's good. That's really
yeah,
good.
I don't know. Every time it's always, how are six? I'm like, really? I thought about this last time I watched the show. Can my Enneagram brain just turn off for 1 second? But no, it can't. But anyway, sevens, if you're done with
Yeah.
sixes.
So yeah, type sevens have trouble with waiting because the grass is always greener on the other side. The present moment is like quicksand, and so they're always trying to plan for the next thing, so that they can get out of this quicksand before it swallows them whole, and limits them and holds them back. So waiting will be hard for them because they feel like the present isn't fun, it's not fulfilling. So I need to get to the future. Again, like three sevens and eights are future oriented. Sevens need to get to the future because they think that fulfillment and fun and joy is tomorrow or the next day, not today. Or maybe it'll run out quickly today. So they have to
Yeah.
remember that the grass is greener wherever you water it. To know that
Mm.
as I'm waiting for that new career, as I'm waiting for the next relationship, as I'm waiting for whatever I think is going to be fulfilling, to know that if I water the grass right where I'm at, like I can find joy and fulfillment right here today. Um, and just to even think about the fact that today is the future, is like yesterday's future. If that makes sense. Like
Yeah.
yesterday you were dreaming about today.
Yeah.
So today is supposed to be fulfilling. That's you thought about today. You planned for
Yeah.
that thing today. So enjoy it. You don't have to wait until tomorrow to enjoy life. So
Yeah.
that's what I got for sevens.
It, I hear people talk about the grass is greener analogy all the time, but I never heard anybody say it's greener where you water it. I have heard though, they say it's proven by science that the way grass grows, the blade, no matter how you look from it, is always going to look greener. So it's really just a matter, again, on perspective. And I think that's a great invitations for sevens right there. It's just knowing perspective can be different wherever you stand and wherever you put effort into. And so if you want to water your grass and it brings you fulfillment through, say, traveling abroad all the time, which sounds fun. I'm so jealous of people who can do that. But hey, that's your perspective in this moment. Then you can do things to water that to make it possible. But it's all about perspective and effort, really.
Yeah, I think Justin Bieber is the one who put that in his song. The grass is greener wherever you water it. Uh, uh, but
Now
but
we're going
he's
looking for it.
but he stole it from a poet or something. Like it didn't originate with him, but the whoever was the lyric writer got it
Yeah.
from someone else. But I just wanted to let you know that's where you can find it too.
Now I'm gonna
Justin
go.
Bieber song.
I'm not even a Justin Bieber fan, but I'm gonna go listen to all his songs just to find. Oh, there's that thing we talked about. So,
Yeah, yeah.
but uh,
All right,
well,
eights.
eights. Yeah, I was trying to figure out where we were on the line.
Okay, so type eights have trouble with waiting because they are usually the ones who move the ball forward. They're usually the ones who step up to the plate when no one else will, to take charge and lead the team, lead the family, lead the crew. And so they love challenges. They love climbing mountains, like metaphorically speaking, like whatever that high mountain is that seems impossible to the world. They want to do the impossible. So a little bit like threes, but even to the nth degree. They do things that are,
Mm,
threes kind of want an easier path to success. They don't want it to be super challenging. Like if I can be successful musician like Justin Bieber, then and someone can write my songs and then throw me into a studio, like that sounds pretty great. Eights need the journey to be challenging and full of like harsh weather, and they want it to be like dirty and
mm,
grind it out and be really hard to feel like they're a somebody, to feel like they're powerful. And so strong. The thing about it that's hard for an eight is that if they're not doing these things, if they're not encountering challenges, if they're not climbing the next mountain, then they feel weak, and they think that other people are going to view them as a weak person, not a strong, tough leader. And so waiting for an eight feels very vulnerable. Like, what if I'm not protecting myself and being strong, then what if somebody comes and takes advantage of me, takes advantage of my loved ones while we're waiting? What if that happens? What are people going to think about me if I'm just waiting here passively for something to happen rather than doing and charging the next hill? I'm going to look weak as a leader, and so they're going to have to surrender their strength. They're going to have to surrender their strength and to wait on outside forces to move things forward. So very practically speaking, in the workplace, they're going to have to stop pushing everyone so hard and taking charge all the time and let somebody else take charge and sort of sit back and wait and let the team catch up and your family members step in or step up to take an active role. And so it's actually going to benefit the eight to actually wait. because even though it feels passive, they feel weak, they're going to see other people actually step up and do something. And so the eight isn't going to get resentful that they're always the one that's taking charge and nobody else is. Everybody else has one foot in, one foot out, and everybody's not 110% like me. So if they can have the patience and humility and the vulnerability to wait, then they can see the world come alive around them and actually be more encouraged
Yeah,
as they wait.
yeah, I like that because um, I think it's like that. The thought that okay, I'm an eight. It's really the eight projecting themselves on other people, and they're like, I know I am capable of this. Other people should be capable of this too. But then when they see that others aren't capable of it, or like maybe it's just taking others to realize their capabilities, it's like, here, I'm just going to do it because I know I can do it type of thing. But then they cause themselves so much hurt and pain, like you said, because they start to get resentful that other people aren't bearing the load and that they're doing it all. But it's really, like you said, there comes a beauty in, just stepping back and letting others um, do it. And that was kind of the things that in my mistyping I thought about myself because like I'm a very much all right. No, nobody's going to step up. I'll step up type of person, and so that was actually one of the things like before I started to think, oh, maybe I mistyped myself. I was working on like, all right, stepping back from the plate to allow other people to kind of take lead on things, and I found benefit in it. And now seeing that, oh, I wasn't an eight, but I'm a three, and seeing all those lessons I learned from that shift, they actually translate to even threes, but in a different way. And so, really, for any type, we can all learn how to step back just a little bit from ourselves. So, uh,
Yeah, that's good. That's really good, Braylon. You want to do nine?
yeah, let's go ahead.
Okay. I have to admit, this one was really hard for me, and I think we get some nines on the podcast to answer this question, and I'm sure you will have a nine on here
It's very
eventually.
hard to find nines. I find sevens, eights, and threes, and everybody else, but no nines.
I guarantee they're at Evangel and all over the place. I see them all over, all over. So you just, I'm not sure why you haven't run into
I think
very
it's
many
just
yet.
me not wanting to connect with nines. I think I want the more exciting types.
Hey, a lot of threes end up marrying nines.
Yeah,
Just to let you know, because they help threes be present, more in the moment, and slow down, and they're what you see is what you get kind of
yeah,
personality. So they don't wear any masks like we do as threes. So they're very sincere and genuine and very down to earth. So they're they're good for us.
yeah.
I ended up marrying a six though. That's who I married a feisty, sassy, sexy six as I call her. Uh, so but okay, nines. Here's what why I struggle with nines and waiting. I know there's a good answer, but here's why I struggle with it. It's because type nines, uh, they they usually wait too much. they they
Yeah,
usually are waiting around. Uh, if in a home, they might not do the dishes, to use a really simple example. They might do the dishes, and because they think it's somebody else's responsibility to do it. They don't think it. Oh, this is my responsibility. So they kind of have that attitude in life where like life, if I just wait long enough, it'll eventually happen. Somebody will somebody will step up and do it. So that's a good thing for some of us more assertive, active types to do is to be patient and waiting like they are. They're very very patient. Uh, but for them, they actually need to take more of an active role in the waiting process. I think they need to
yeah,
actually have hard conversations that they've been waiting too long to have. Maybe they've been waiting for a career promotion. Well, have they ever fought for themselves? Have they ever went to their boss and said, "Hey, I need a raise," and stuck up for themselves? So they need to stop waiting and start having hard conversations if they're really going to love themselves well. So that's why it was hard for me with this, because for them, more than other types, they are more passive, almost too passive when it comes to waiting for things to happen. So I'll just need
Yeah,
to get some input from some friends on, like, what, when you're waiting to be seen, when you're waiting to be validated by your coworkers, when you're waiting for someone to include you, like, what's going on in your mind and in your heart, and how do you wrestle or deal with that? Um,
yeah,
you know, so I think, they move to the unhealthy side of six in stress. So they probably, the wheels start spinning, their head starts spinning. They start thinking about the worst case scenarios, like bad's gonna happen, or maybe they start blaming, like an unhealthy six would do. I know they get passive aggressive when their voice isn't being heard and they're waiting to be acknowledged. They might just dig their heels in more and not budge and not move. I know some nines who have uh, filed for divorce from their partner after waiting and waiting for their partner to change and to look at them and to see them. And when that didn't happen, they didn't even have one conversation about it. They just filed for divorce, uh, because that's a very, very, passive aggressive thing to
yeah.
do. So those are just some things off the top of my head that I can think about with nines. But I would love to get more input from nines, and maybe you can get a nine on.
Well, I like how I was actually about to. You kind of went there a little bit, but I was actually about to go and talk about their movement on the lines. Um, and I was actually going to ask you because I'm still having trouble memorizing all the types and how they move across the lines and everything. Um, but in stress, nines go to six, right?
Six.
And
Mm-hmm.
then in health, they go to three. Not well, in security, they go to three. And I was just wondering, and we kind of talked about the stress part, but I was kind of wondering, as two threes, we can kind of brainstorm and be like, all right, here's how you can tap into your threeness and really, get out there and go get it. I think the the business minded part would be just to make smart goals. Something that's, and I totally went blank on the acronym as I said it. It was right there, and I said it, and I was gone. Um, but smart, I forget what it means. Measurable, um, realistic, time. When I literally just had it in my mouth, I was ready to go through it, and as soon as I said it, it went away from me. Um,
I know what you're talking about, but I can't remember it right off the top of my head. But I know what
yeah,
you're saying. Yeah.
yeah, but
Yep.
yeah, it's just maybe a nine needs a three friend to just kind of push them into that healthy movement a little bit. Gently, not like pushing off a cliff, but like more like I want to say counselor type of thing. Trying to guide them on how to healthily move along that line to their threeness a little bit to tap in and bring out some qualities in them. Because nines, their whole thing, as we all know, is that they're afraid to stir the pot to bring conflict, and sometimes conflict is healthy. I'm a type of person that will often. I like how one of my former youth pastors said it one time. I'm the type of person who will start conflict and step back and watch other people go at it, because I just think it's probably too fun for me. But because I used to, a lot of times I'll go on Facebook and post these controversial posts, and I'll just step back and just watch people fight in the comments. I'm like, you're right, you're wrong, you're both right on that, and like I'm just there, and he's like, you're like a kid poking a hail of ants. I'm like, you're right, Pastor, you're right. That is totally me. I'm like, let's look at this a little bit. So, but I forgot where I was going with this. I kind of went off on a rabbit trail. It's so easy for me.
No, I think um no, I think what you're saying is good. And so if you were to press me today without getting more input from nines, I think, again, to come back to the problem with nines is, they while they're waiting for something to happen, it's easier to hit the eject button
Yeah,
and to withdraw and to cut people off, than it is to actually engage and have a hard conversation.
yeah,
And so, um, what they need to do in the waiting process, and even with God, or like, it's to wrestle with people, to let them know your heart, let them know how you feel not acknowledged, to let them know you feel invisible, to have that conversation, uh, to allow things to move forward and to see the fruit that you want to see, rather than move backwards by withdrawing and cutting people off.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say. Yeah, for nines.
I'm I am going to make it my mission now to find a nine. Now that I realize that I have not come in contact with, at least I don't think I've come in contact with a nine before.
Yeah, because nines can use that as an excuse. I mean, they can lean into this whole waiting thing and be like, I'm still waiting.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for the right partner to come along in my life. And it's like, well, if you keep waiting forever, the only person that you're possibly gonna potentially marry is the UPS man who comes to the door. I heard
with your Amazon packages
or
every
your
day.
Amazon delivery. That's the only person you're gonna be able to marry, because you need to like stop waiting and
Yeah.
put yourself out there. And I know some of the women might get mad at that, but they know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
There's some things you can do to put yourself out there and make things happen, to push things along. And
Yeah.
so don't use the waiting thing as an excuse, because you if you just keep saying that I'm waiting on the Lord, or I'm waiting on a friend, or waiting on whoever, it's just you're never going to accomplish your dreams.
Yeah.
And Walt Disney was a nine with the one wing, they presume, and he was very, very creative. And look at what happened. I mean,
Yeah.
look at the Disney movies, look at the Disney parks, but all that came about
Franchises.
because all that came about because of his brother. His brother was a tasker, doer, entrepreneur, and so Walt Disney linked up with his brother, and his brother's the one that pushed him and made all of it happen. So nines oftentimes marry eights. Nines a lot of times marry task-oriented ones. Nines a lot of times marry threes. So you see them oftentimes gravitating towards more assertive types who can help them and push them to accomplish their
Yeah.
dreams. And so that's what you said is great. If you're struggling as a nine, link up with somebody who can help you, who can push
Yeah.
you in a good way.
And I can't help but think a little bit in the Christian side of, I always butcher the where it is, as I want to say 2 Timothy 1:9, faith without works is dead. It's the idea you can have all the faith you want, but if you don't put action behind it, even God Himself is like, hey, have faith in me, but yet you still have to do a little bit to get where you want to go where I'm calling you. He's like, I can plan out your life, but I still need you to pour in a little bit too, type of thing. And even honestly, that's true from the Christian's perspective. That's true from, I believe, from even Muslim perspective. Whatever higher power someone believes in, I believe that higher power is calling them to put in a little bit effort on their behalf as well. Because who wants to do all the work? Even the gods themselves don't want to do that. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, hey, we made it through all nine types.
we did. Words cannot express the amount of gratitude that I have for each and every one of my listeners. So, if you would like to support Enneagram Store Podcast even more, you can do so by sending a tip by going to enneagrammerstore.com/tip jar. That's enneagrammerstore.com/tip jar. That's ENNEAGRAMMERSTORE.com/TIPJAR. enneagrammerstore.com/tip jar. So before I move into like a little fun closing segment, is there anything you want to add that we haven't talked about?
No, I think we hit as much as we could for the time
All
that we
right.
had today. So I'm pretty happy with it.
All right. So whenever I have guests on, I like to kind of close out with a few fun would you rather questions. And so I got a few. If you're up for it,
Sure.
All
Sure
right.
thing.
So first, I only have five, so it should be fairly quick. But first one is: would you rather live in a world without music or a world without movies?
Wow. Um, I would say, man, that's a really tough one. I would say a world without movies. I
Mm,
think I would stick to music. Actually, that's just what my gut's telling me.
I like it. I will have to say, I don't think I ever said this ever before to anybody. I've done this with it already, but when I pick these, I honestly think, all right, this person, like here are three. I'm like, I try to go through I have a long list of questions. I'm like, what would challenge a three? So hopefully all these are like challenging your three side a little bit and trying to make you pick because I'm a little bit, like I said, evil like that. So, uh, but
Well, I almost have more good, meaningful memories that are near and dear to my heart from music than movies.
yeah,
Like I can think of Matrix. Oh yeah, that's one of my favorite movie of all time. Or there's different movies that are like, yeah, that was amazing. Braveheart, Gladiator from back in the day. Uh, but like, there's certain like a lot of songs that have
oh
ministered
yeah.
to me that have blessed me, um, brought me to tears, and just listen to music more than I watch movies. So I would, yeah, go with music.
As a musician, I can say music is very powerful. Um, all right, next one. Would you rather have to give up coffee or give up pizza for a year?
Oh, man, why is this so hard? Really? Well, as you can tell, I've been drinking my coffee in my amber mug. By the way,
I want one of those so bad.
they're not, yeah, not sponsoring this podcast. But it's I hate going to coffee shop now and having my coffee go cold in like 15 minutes. Like this amber mug keeps my coffee warm for 2 hours straight, same temperature for 2 hours. So I love my coffee. I love hot coffee, and it keeps me going. And I do it every day. I don't eat pizza every day, so I'll have to go with coffee.
All right, but now I gotta know, how do you take your coffee? This is
Uh,
controversial for everybody.
I started off with a lot of cream and sugar. Like I tithe 10% of my income basically to the local coffee shop because every time I got a coffee it was like $5 to $7, and and then I eventually weaned myself off of all that, and now I just drink it black. So pretty simple.
Yes, same way. I was that was me too. I'm like, all right, now people are like, that's gross. I'm like, scientifically it's better because they say you live longer, which I don't know if I want to live longer, but it just also just tastes better straight out the pot.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
my band director, she used to have a coffee shop for a little bit, and she was the first person to get me to actually try something other than just black coffee. And she gave me like, because she was testing out new drinks, and she gave me this, I think it was a chocolate frap type of thing around Christmas time. I'm like, okay, fraps are pretty good. I misjudged them,
Mm-hmm.
but still, I'm gonna stick to my black coffee all the time. So, now this one is a little bit mystical, not mystical, I think, but would you rather be abducted by aliens or stranded at sea?
Wow. I would probably be abducted by aliens because I just, for whatever reason, don't like the idea of being. Even when I think about the Titanic, like being out in the middle of the sea alone with sharks and weird animals beneath my feet. That just kind of freaks me out. So I think I'll take my chances
All
with
right,
the aliens.
all right, I like it. Now I'm asking everyone this one because this is a one that just it's like dear to my soul because it's a problem that I have. So I'm like every guest is getting this exact same one. Would you rather always have damp socks on or always have a pebble in your shoe?
Both are horrible. I mean, my goodness. I would probably go with damp socks.
Oh, oh,
I feel like it would spread out the annoyance a little bit, whereas a hard rock in my shoe, like that seems more painful if I'm walking. So I'm gonna go with the least painful option.
all right.
So, hmm
All right, and this last one is a little bit it's a little bit philosophical,
I like
a little bit,
philosophical
a little
questions.
bit serious. Would you rather travel back in time to meet your ancestors, or travel forward in time to meet your descendants?
Forward in time for sure. You
All
know,
right.
I'm a future oriented three. I think the future is better than the past. Um, but oddly, as I get old, I literally, when I was a younger three like yourself, Braylon, I didn't see any really value in looking at the past. I was like, we're smarter now. We
Yeah.
were more advanced. I like technology. Uh, like everything better is in the future. Why look at the past?
Yeah.
But now, as I get older, I'm like, I want my life to be meaningful. I want to know more context about how we got here. I want to know the evolution of man. I want to know these things because I feel like I don't have a grasp on the meaning of the world and like I've just been achieving and just going my whole life, but now I'm hitting my midlife crisis and I'm trying to ask bigger questions, and so it's pushing me to go backwards and pushing me to look at like the start of man to see how religions got started from 10,000 BC to AD to explore history and to find value in it. And so that's I've been on a history kick over the last couple of years and really love it. So that's a long-winded answer,
I like it.
and an extra ad lib to your question, but I just thought I'd share that.
I like it. I like it because when I picked, I was like, he's a three. He's definitely going to say future. But to hear that reasoning behind it, I'm like,
Yeah,
yeah, I can see. Because I'm sort of the same way. I'm like, I look back in the past to be like, all right, what did they do wrong? How can I do better? Type of thing. So,
and I really more so than my descendants or my future descendants, more so than that, I just want to like be on hoverboards and be like
yes.
I want to be doing all the futuristic technology stuff. Like, I do more so than like meeting my future family members.
Yes, it's like the Jetsons said in 20, I think 30, we'll be on hoverboards, and it's already 2024, and there's no sight of this technology. I'm like, somebody lied.
Yep.
So I'm like, what's happening? We need to speed this up here. We're going to electric cars. That's not where I want to go. I want to be able to fly from my house to school within 5 seconds, or teleport by snapping my fingers. Um, I always thought that was the fun part about like Bewitched and all that. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
she can travel without leaving her actually stepping outside.
That's why, um, like shows like the movies like The Matrix and with like future technology, like all that stuff. Really, I love that, and I've always been drawn to techno music, electronic music, future sounding sounds, all that stuff. Really, I gravitate towards.
So, what about um, like books like A Brave New World and like that type of stuff? I want to say I think 1984 is a dystopia type of literature.
Mm, mm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, I like all of those types of things too. Really big into shows that are like time travel shows right now. Um, yeah, and shows with technology. So yeah, yeah, I'm all into that. Yeah,
I get it. I get it. I love it. Well, let me make sure that should have been the last of everything. Oh, I want to make sure that we put this out there. Tell us how people can connect with you and learn more about all the amazing things that you have to
yeah,
offer.
yeah. So you can find me at tylerzock.com. So Tyler, you can see it on the screen. TylerZach.com. Uh, Lots of different some freebies on there. You can get a free self typing guide. So if you're like, oh, I want to figure out what my type, but I don't want to take a test and do question by question. If I want to see all the core desires and constellation of characteristics all in, one page each, then you can go get my free self typing guide. If you are faith based or if you're a Christian, you can go to my website as well. And I have like free 5-day devotionals for every single Enneagram type on there. So if that's something that interests you, you can get that. And then if you want to go even further, I wrote a whole book for your type, 180 pages. That's very practical, very concrete, like 700 words per day, 3 reflection questions, an action step. So I created a 40-day devotional over the last took me 5 years, and I'm finally finishing it up right now. And so that would be my gift to you. It's really an encouraging letter, not just a book, but a letter to you to help you to feel seen and known by God. So if you that interests you, then great. But I also love working outside of church context and love doing business workshops and things like that as well. So hit my website up, and you can find me at Gospel for Enneagram on Instagram. That's kind of where the party's at. I'm on most socials, but that's kind of where most people are on Instagram. Just Gospel FOR Enneagram. That's the handle. And again, you don't have to be faith based. Like I put content out there every week that's relevant for everybody to keep learning the Enneagram. So thanks for allowing me to point people my way.
I thank you for coming and sitting down with me and having a conversation. I'm gonna be honest, this is probably the longest one I've ever done, so I like that. It's been very free flowing. So not every interview is like this, where it's like feels just more conversation, since we're screen to screen. So whenever it happens, I'm like, yes, this was a successful one. So thank you for
Good,
conversating with me.
good, good. Love it, man. I'm thankful for what you're doing. Thankful for you trying to connect with people and surface the Enneagram and help other people, make other people more aware of the Enneagram so they can use it in their to transform their lives and in their workplace. And so way to go on using your gifts to elevate people and to help and empower people, both me and the people listening. So I appreciate you using your type 3 gifts.
Thank you. Hooked up to my MacBook, and it's pretty good quality, but there's some more things I can do. Had to have if I had more technology. So, um, you get to choose a tip. I think it's been a while since I looked at it, but you can do that. And if you would like to do that, and I would greatly appreciate it if you did, you could do that by going to enneagramrestored.com/tip jar. That is enneagramrestored.com/TIPJAR, and that link will be in the show notes for easy access. Another way you can support and help grow this podcast is just by leaving a review on Apple Podcast and rating us on Spotify. You can do that directly within those platforms, or you can go to enneagramrestored.com, and there is a way for you to do it right from the website. So, and lastly, you can also support this podcast and help it grow by following and subscribing to Enneagram Restored Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Instagram. But I want you to know this: whichever way you decide to support this podcast, I am more than grateful for that. And so don't think you have to do more than you can. If you can afford to tip a little bit, then great. But if you can't, it's not a burden. It's nothing. I want you to give out the greatness of your heart. If you can't afford the time to leave a thoughtful review, then please do. And it doesn't have to be a good thoughtful review. I always say I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. And I say that because in order for me to improve, in order for me to do things better, I got to know what I'm doing wrong. And so if you have a review that is like saying this is just horrible, why is he doing this, why did he say it this way, why is he so absent-minded, which I am, why is he so crazy, which I tell my students all the time. But leave a review. If it's a good review, leave it. If it's a bad review, leave it. I don't like throwing the baby out with the bathwater, and like to see it all so I know how to improve and do things better. But the simplest of form, like I said, it's just going to be press and play on these episodes, or just following, subscribing to us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and Instagram, and even on Facebook, because I do have a Facebook page now. But the greatest way is by sending a tip. Again, that link, as well as any other links mentioned within this episode, will be in the show notes. So, like if you're on YouTube and you see me pointing down right now, right there. Just go scroll down. Yeah, scroll. No. Listen to me. Scroll There you go. There you go. Right there. And click see more. All of it's at the very bottom. But anyway, with that being said, until the next episode, I want you to remember that the Enneagram doesn't define you, but it does bring restoration. It helps reshape your thinking and habits.